the king of the Golden Mountain, long ago there lived a very rich merchant who had many houses, much land, and more gold than he could count. But his heart was never full because he always wanted more. So one day he decided to put all his wealth on two great ships and sail to far lands to trade and become even richer. And before leaving, he looked at his small son and promised to return soon. But fate was cruel, and a terrible storm rose on the sea. The waves were strong and dark, the ships broke apart and sank, and all the gold was lost forever. So the merchant became poor in one night and had nothing left except his last piece of land and his young son. And every day he felt fear and sorrow, worrying how he could protect the child he loved. Until one evening, while walking alone on his land, he met a strange little dwarf called Mannikin, who laughed at him and asked why he looked so sad. And when the merchant told him his story, the dwarf said he could make him rich again if the merchant promised to give him the first thing that touched him when he returned home 12 years later. And without thinking clearly, the merchant agreed because his mind was full of gold. But when he reached home, his little son ran to him and held his leg, and fear filled the merchant's heart because he understood what he had done. Yet when he checked his old chest, it was empty at first, and he felt hope. But a few days later it was full of gold, and he became richer than ever. Though his joy was dark and heavy because he feared the coming day, and when 12 years passed, he finally told his son the truth. But the boy was calm because a fairy had visited him in a dream and told him of danger and fortune. So father and son went back to the land where the promise was made, and the son drew a magic circle that the dwarf could not cross. And after angry words, they agreed to let the sea decide the boy's fate by placing him in a small boat. And with tears the father pushed the boat away while the dwarf felt satisfied. And the boy drifted for many days until he reached a strange shore where a great palace stood beside a shining golden mountain. And inside the silent palace he met a white snake who spoke with a human voice and said she was Princess Inada under a cruel spell that could only be broken if he suffered pain for 3 nights. And though afraid, he agreed and endured great suffering. And when the spell broke, the snake became a beautiful woman. The palace filled with people again, and the young man became the king of the Golden Mountain and married the princess. And they lived in happiness and had a son. But after 7 years, the king began to miss his father deeply and wished to see him again. And though the queen warned him of sorrow, she gave him a wishing ring and made him promise never to wish her or their son to his father Esland. And the king agreed, but when he wished to return, he arrived at his father. Esgrave, and later met the old man who did not believe he was his son and treated him like a poor shepherd. And when the queen came, she was hurt and angry, and while the king slept, she took the ring and returned home with their child, leaving the king alone and full of regret. And as he wandered the world, he met 3 giants fighting over a magic cloak, shoes, and sword. And by clever words he took all 3 and returned to the Golden Mountain, where he found a great wedding feast, because the queen was to marry another man. And anger and pain filled his heart, and in his rage he used the sword and cried out for all heads to fall except his own. And the terrible magic worked, and everyone died, the queen, the child, and all the people. And only then did the king understand that no gold, power, or anger was worth the loss of love. And he sat alone on his throne as the lonely king of the Golden Mountain, rich beyond measure, but empty forever. The king of the Golden Mountain